My name is Brianna, and my environmental concern is poor waste disposal. What is poor waste disposal, and how does it affect our environment, and why is it a threat? Poor waste disposal can range, but ineffective disposal methods, such as littering, throwing trash into the ocean or other bodies of water, and incinerating trash, are the major concerns that affect our environment. Proper waste management is important because it protects the environment from water and air contamination. This can then lead to humans, animals, and other living things suffering with the natural resources that the earth provides. And then on the right is just a pie graph that I found online saying the global treatment and disposal of waste in percentages. And then the world generates 2 billion tons of solid waste annually, with at least 33% of that not managed in an environmentally safe manner. And you can see that on the pie chart, and that 33% represents the open dump ways of disposing garbage, and then that 11% incineration, and that other 25%, some of that could be a part of poor waste management. So then when you see on the pie chart, when you kind of add it together, you can really see how poor waste disposal is making up a large majority and why it's important for it to be controlled and stopped. And then types of poor methods and threats. Trash in the ocean. Trash thrown in oceans cause fish and other biodiversity to suffer, either from physically hurting themselves with the trash, like strangling to death, or harm their environment in which they live in. Trash burned. Trash that is burned causes greenhouse gases to be released that are a key contributor to climate changes. And then littering. Littering can cause soil quality to decrease, and it can lead to the pollution of water. And then lastly, open dump, a method where you throw trash and land away from a populated city. It contaminates soil and creates a breeding ground for diseases to form. So then all of these poor methods hurts all part of the environment, including land, air, water, and life. How scientists are studying the problem. How do they research, and what do they look for? How do scientists research? When studying the problems of poor waste disposal, scientists conduct tests and experiments to compare data on whether control would be improved or worsened. Below are two specific examples of food waste studies. EPA researchers worked with the U.S. Army Engineering Research and Development Center to assess the feasibility of rebuilding the sewage treatment systems at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, to include anaerobic digestion to accept food waste and other organics. The research team concluded that co-digestion of food and biosolids would be a win-win scenario for Fort Huachuca because it would help eliminate the largest part of the waste stream, food, reduce biosolids disposal costs, and generate power for operating the installation's wastewater treatment plant. So in this example, basically scientists saw a problem and they saw a way that they could modify it, like by sewage treatment system, and they found a way to combine waste disposal with a system that's already existing. And the next one, EPA researchers evaluated the quality and quantity of liquid and gas emissions from lab-scaled landfills with varying amounts of food waste. In the simulations, those with the least amount of food waste began generating methane the fastest, contradictory to how current models predict landfill methane generation. And this example specifically talks about landfills, which was previously mentioned, especially on the chart. And what these scientists were able to do was assess the situation, like landfills that are currently happening, and they were able to run experiments that varied on the control, and at the end they were able to see if it improved or worsened. What do scientists look for? Scientists look for ways to improve current waste disposal methods. They do this by examining how the environment reacts to different studies to determine future procedures. And that's kind of what I talked about in the how do science research. And then some examples of that are scientists getting samples from soil, air, water, and living things, looking at general trends on if these samples are improving or getting worse, finding possible solutions to the data found, looking at previous environmental records to compare with current times, and creating different types of experiments, like controlled or natural, to test hypotheses. And all of those were used in the scientist research examples that I mentioned previously. And then what are scientists discovering? So one way scientists are discovering how to manage these waste disposal methods is through creating a new way to break them down. So with high levels of plastic being disposed into landfills at rapid rates, Chinese researchers approached this problem by trying to reuse the plastic. This led to them using a catalyst to convert PET plastic into commercially useful chemicals. So here, this type of work inspires other scientists to look for approaches to waste disposal problems from the viewpoint of responding to previously made waste. And then another way is changing waste itself. Qiuming Wang, an assistant professor at University of Southern California, is working towards finding eco-friendly material that will help an impact of poor waste disposal, like carbon dioxide emissions. He does this by mimicking materials of natural structures, like observing how natural materials break down. And his way of thinking inspires other scientists to confront the waste disposal issues by focusing on the waste properties themselves. So these are two ideas that scientists are having to solve poor waste disposal problems. And then possible solutions. How can we help? One way we can help is by minimizing our waste. This can look like recycling as often as possible and buying biodegradable materials. And this can help reduce land and air pollution from entering the environment. And then biodegradable materials help sustain soil within the earth because they can break down, unlike plastic. And then buying used and donating. Shopping at secondhand stores or buying products that have been previously owned and donating materials instead of throwing them away can help prevent products from entering land waste or being burnt. And then food waste, managing it. Bringing your own reusable containers and bags into stores and buying products that have minimal amounts of packaging and only purchasing when needed can help food waste lower in amount. And that's important because food waste can overuse water, waste excess land, and harm animals. Animals can be harmed when consuming these wastes in landfills. And then here's some scientific evidence to support these solutions. And these solutions ultimately minimize waste by not creating as much of it in the first place. And this has the greatest significance because minimizing buying and reusing/recycling has a lower impact to the environment compared to producing products. So this is why all the methods were mainly about minimizing how many products that we waste, because that has the greatest effect. And then here's some evidence to support that. It takes 95% less energy to recycle aluminum than it does to make it from raw materials. Recycling steel saves 60% production energy, recycling newspapers 40%, recycling plastic 70%, recycling glass 40%. And then a 2015 study found that the production and use of household goods and services was responsible for 60% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And all of this shows that we should recycle and reuse as much as possible because the percentages are large. 60, 40, 90% really makes an impact on our environment. And as I talked about in the beginning, all the negative impacts that it can do to the environment really can be helped if we can just cut down on how much we're buying and improving how much we're recycling and reusing. And that is my poor waste disposal environmental report.